It's time to go across the Spider-Verse. We'll talk about that and more on today's episode of the Geek Watch podcast.
This is the Geek Watch podcast with Brian Hatcher and Mandy Petrie.
Greetings, Geek Watchers, and welcome to episode 191 of the Geek Watch podcast. I'm Brian Hatcher, and with me as always, Geek Watch's own resident geek goddess, Mandy Petrie.
Hello, Brian.
We got our first real trailer for the second season of Good Omens.
Yeah.
And I know you've seen that, so what do you think?
I'm really excited about it. Thinking about season one, we got this big, huge global disaster. And then as far as like supernatural TV shows go, we're going backwards in the formula, which I don't mind at all. Now it's this sort of smaller scale. Oh, there's, spoiler alert, an angel's gone missing. Where could he be? We've got to find him, or something bad will happen. So I'm enjoying that, like thinking about Buffy or Supernatural. This is the kind of thing that would have been maybe like first, second season, they would build up to the big apocalyptic Four Horsemen thing in like later seasons. But this is really interesting, and loving that we still have Neil Gaiman to be a part of this, and I think Terry Pratchett would have been proud. So.
Oh, I think so. Mm-hmm. Well, that's the thing. It does seem like it's a more compact, more intimate story. Mm-hmm. But then again, we have John Hamm's Gabriel, who seems to have some sort of amnesia. Mm-hmm. And there is a war in heaven about to break out. Yeah. It seems like a more intimate story, but it looks like it has some far-reaching consequences.
It looks like we're getting some cool new characters. I'm excited about that.
Oh, yeah. And especially with everything that they did with season one, it's going to be really interesting to see what they do with season two. And it does seem like it's a little bit of a different tone, but a lot of the stuff that, of course, that we loved in season one, and, of course, the stuff that we loved from the book itself, it looks like we're getting another helping dose of it. Now, we have also seen some pictures from the new Captain America movie, but we've also gotten some news about it as well. They're changing the name of the movie. Did you know this?
So it's no longer
New World Order. They have gotten rid of that because it's a term that the alt-right's using a lot more now, and they're like, let's not even go down that road.
Oh.
They're calling it Brave New World.
Okay.
Fair enough.
If we're picking dystopian novels to choose titles of, that's a pretty good one.
Yeah. And one thing I have been doing as much as I can is I've been trying to avoid spoilers. Apparently, there are like a bunch of new spoilers that are coming out for Flash, including a leak of what the after credit scene is going to be. And it seems like the director of their own movie is doing a lot of these leaks. It's like, why are you doing that?
Got to get people excited about this movie. Got to get them out.
Yeah, but it's one thing to get people excited about a movie. It's another to spoil the movie for you. Mm-hmm. Honestly, at this point, you're either going to go see it or not. Mm-hmm. So I don't see the point in reducing the quality of the experience that you're going to have in the movie. It's just going to ruin it for the people who do want to come out and see it. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But then again, going back to what we've said a lot of times, when people cut trailers to try to get people to come in and they spoil the movie when they cut the damn trailer.
Yes.
I don't understand that either. I suppose it's like whatever they think they've got to do to get people in the theater, they're going to do. But there's a point you got to draw the line and just let the movie be the movie. And, I don't want to see the movie in the trailer. I want to see the movie in the theater, There have been like a couple of trailers for some horror, which I'm looking forward to. I haven't seen Boogeyman yet. I'm planning on going to see it. I've been hearing some pretty decent things about it. One of the great things I've heard about it, it's an hour and a half long.
Okay.
I think that's awesome.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Boogeyman is a novella or a short story?
I think it's a short story. I think it's Stephen King's short story.
Because those do make the better movies. His novels make better miniseries. The short stories make for better movies, like 1408. So I'm glad about that.
Oh, yeah. His novels tend to be really
dense.
Yeah, dense and chunky and comfort food. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. I have heard that Oppenheimer is going to get an R rating for nudity. Apparently, there's a lot of full frontal male nudity by the main character, Cillian Murphy. Apparently, spends a lot of time with no pants on. And
no, this is a movie about the Manhattan Project, right?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Nuclear war, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, just I'm making sure that I've got that right.
Yeah, that kind of shocked me. I was like, okay, I'm sure you see the movie. It'll make sense in the context of the story that they're trying to tell. I understand. But apparently it's not even just like once or twice. Apparently it happens a lot.
Okay.
And now I'm wondering if I should see it in IMAX.
Oh, well.
I am going to mention this. This is a little bit of tech news. Normally we talk about movies and television, but...
Yes, entertainment.
But this really fits into that. Mm-hmm. Did you see the Apple keynote address they did this week?
Of course not.
Because you are busy.
Where would I even see that? I don't even know where I would find that. Is that a TED Talk? I don't.
It's online.
Okay.
So, and definitely on their website and news aggregates all over the place. But the big thing that they were talking was this new VR, AR headset. And when I say VR and AR, it's because it's going to be augmented reality as well.
Yeah, new augmented reality.
So basically what it's going to be like is you're going to be able to see screens floating around. You're going to be able to watch a movie right in your face. It'll allow you to surf the web. It has all these different cameras, so you can do FaceTime, but obviously it can't do FaceTime to you because you're wearing this thing on your face. So it makes an avatar that looks like you.
So are we stepping into Ready Player One or Lawnmower Man? What am I looking at here? Johnny Mnemonic?
A little bit of all of those things. Mm-hmm. It is wireless, although obviously it's heavy as it is because of the fact that it's this big metal thing. And so the battery is on a cable and you can carry the battery around. Because it's augmented reality, although technically speaking, you're not really looking through glass. You're looking through cameras, but you can still see out. Mm-hmm. But what's interesting about this is they've got a screen across the front. What they do with that is it takes pictures of your eyes because, of course, it does eye tracking, so it knows what window you're looking at. But you got a bunch of windows floating in midair. Whichever one you're looking at, it tracks it, and that's the one that comes up bright and the other one's dim. But while it's watching your eyes, so that people can know from the outside that you can see them, it will put pictures of your eyes on the front. Yes. Dead, robotic
Very
eyes.
Uncanny Valley. We're getting there. We're getting to the Uncanny Valley.
Well, we were talking about the Avatar. Mm-hmm. It's very Uncanny Valley at this point. Supposedly it's going to get better. But there is a little bit of Uncanny Valley to it. And, of course, this is like the Mark I version.
Oh, yeah.
So, it's supposed to be able to interact with your Mac so you can use it as another video screen if you want. You can do your writing or your web surfing or whatever. But the thing about it is it doesn't need your phone or your computer to work. It has its own chip and it's got...
Reaches the cloud, its own...
Yeah, basically it runs itself. So you can put this thing on regardless and do whatever you need to do with it. Mm-hmm. And it also records video, 3D video. You can look at things in 3D. It's automatically built into 3D. And if you're someone who wears glasses, there are actually little pieces that fit in it that are similar to your prescription. Mm-hmm. So you won't need to wear your glasses underneath of it or anything like that. It'll compensate for all of that. It's a big ball of possibilities and potential. It's ultimately like with the iPhone and the iPad, where here's this piece of technology, what do you want to do with it? And then once they figure out what people want to do with it,
it develops, it gets all of its accessories and updates.
And they figure out exactly how to do it. I figure most people are going to be watching movies with it. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be obviously a very immersive experience. You can sit as close to the TV as you want, technically. There's really no difference of having a 50-foot screen, a 100-foot screen. You see the whole thing. And of course, even if you can't see the entire screen from your viewpoint, as you move your head,
you turn and look.
You can turn and look at all of it. And although we tend to be a very family-friendly show here, of course, you have to think...
Do we?
Yeah, we try to be
We
family.
try.
But I saw this, and of course, no one said anything about this, but I'm sure everyone thought it.
Of course.
So how's this going to affect the porn industry?
Yeah, it's going to be a whole genre. The cam girls, the immersive experience. That'll be the next thing, that suit that they wear in Ready Player One that allows you to feel sensations. So that'll happen. Yeah. That'll attach to it.
One thing that a lot of adult performers got upset about was the introduction of 4K, because there are certain physical flaws that are easier to hide when it's a lower def.
There'll be a lot more body paint.
The one thing that gave me the biggest bit of the creeps was this idea of these poor women who are going to be looking up into the dead robotic eyes of their boyfriend who's wearing one of these things and recording everything that they're doing to watch it later.
What's the Ralph Fiennes and Juliette Lewis movie? And Angela Bassett's in it, and they put on the head things and they feel what someone else feels. Something like Strange Days.
Yeah.
Was it Strange Days? Okay. Yeah. Strange Days. Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see how this headset affects consuming content and experiencing content and creating content.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I don't know if this is a good thing or not. I don't. But
it will be used for good. It will be used for bad. It will be all the things.
Yeah, I think so. Yep. I think so. But now that we're on the subject of content, I have to talk about Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Mm. Oh, so where do I begin? I went to see it on Tuesday.
Right.
And not because I could go in and watch it for $5 because
although
I didn't know.
It makes it nice.
Yeah, it makes it nice, but I didn't realize that they had $5 Tuesday movies. I just happened to go see it. Mm-hmm. And so, hooray. Mm-hmm. I've talked about Into the Spider-Verse, the first one, the Oscar-winning animation. Now, have you seen the first one yet?
No.
It's amazing. A lot of my friends have not seen this. Our mutual friend and friend of the show, Kevin Polly, he hadn't seen it either.
But I have never heard a bad thing about it. I've only heard wonderful, that this is the best ever, and I know I'm missing out, and I do want to see it. Yeah, I do know that I'm missing out.
And I think when I reviewed the original previously on this podcast, I think one of the things I said was, as much as I love Tom Holland, and of course I loved all the Spider-Man movies, I thought that Into the Spider-Verse was my favorite Spider-Man movie. Mm-hmm. And just the style of the animation, it broke a whole lot of new ground. It told an amazing story. It was gorgeous. It was action-packed. And it was a great story. Mm-hmm. You know, it was emotional as well as being dramatic and exciting and all that stuff. And I thought, how are they going to top that? I didn't think they could top that.
And you were wrong.
They topped it. I could not believe how much better that it was. And there's just like a lot of amazing things in this movie. And I'm going to go no spoiler on this one because this is definitely one of these things you need to experience with fresh eyes and not having a bunch of things spoiled, even if you knew a lot of the twists and turns, and they caught me with a few things. There were a couple things that I was like, oh, that's interesting. But there are, I'll say a few things subtly. I won't go into a whole lot of detail, but I will say the cameos. First of all, holy cow, the cameos. I will say there were a couple of instances in the movie where of course, this is a multi-dimensional, multi-reality movie, and I will say of the Marvel movies, this is the best one of those. Mm-hmm. But I saw a couple of things in there where I was like, if I didn't know better, but I do know better, if I didn't know better, I would think that this was a nod to Everything Everywhere All at Once. There were a couple of things in there where I was like, okay, this is stretching it. It's a leap. I understand this is a leap. But there were a couple things in there where I was like, okay, this kind of looks like an homage to Everything Everywhere All at Once. And then they came out with one that was so blatant. Now I'm like, okay, you are doing Everything Everywhere All at Once. One other thing, too, that I will say, and without going into a whole lot of details, but when the trailer for the movie came out, there was on YouTube a 14-year-old kid who did his own bit of stop motion animation. He recreated the trailer in stop motion, and the filmmakers loved it so much, they had him animate a part of it. So there is a section in there that's a little bit different. That 14-year-old kid. He did it, and they put it in the movie.
That's wonderful.
They let him create one of the alternate universes, and it's all him. And I didn't realize it, but there it was. And I was like, I thought, this is cool. But then I found out the story behind it, and I was like, oh, this is amazing.
Right. And in 20 years, we're going to be hearing about this kid and all of his amazing Oscar-winning.
Oh, yeah. But it was amazing. And, of course, it was one of my favorite parts of the movie. But, of course, once I found out a 14-year-old kid made it, and they
made it even better.
It made it so much better. Now, I'm not saying this movie is for everybody. I'm not going to say everyone is going to enjoy this movie. I would say that if someone is, say, the type of person who gets really upset when a movie doesn't duplicate the comic perfectly or makes changes to the comic, if they're the type of person who maybe did not like the idea of a young black man being Spider-Man, or have had a problem with any type of a character that used to be played by a white dude not being played by a white dude, if they've ever used the phrase, get woke, go broke, maybe they shouldn't go to this movie, because it's not going to be a lot of fun sitting in a theater and having a movie flip you off for 2.5 hours, because they're not even subtle about it. They are poking fun at a lot of the canon purists, a lot of the people who have issues with...
And that just never has made any sense, because comics are the epitome, the pinnacle of changing everything. Marvel Ultimates, all the different timelines, and constantly making different universes and different canons, and just finding out that Damian Wayne killed Dick Grayson and became Nightwing. And I just found that out recently in one of the timelines. And it's constantly evolving and constantly changing. So there's really no such thing as a pure comic.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, they're, again, not going into any spoilers, but this idea of canon and preserving canon, not only is it like one of the big plot points of this movie, but it's the villain of the movie in a real sense. And the directors and the writers of the film, they have made it no secret at all that this is what they were doing. That for everyone who got upset of Miles Morales taking over as Spider-Man, and for whatever reasons they did, and it's not a skinny little white guy, so he can't be Spider-Man. But yeah, all the different things that have been swirling around comic book movies, they decided, no, we're going to go there, and we're not going to be subtle about it at all. And so maybe that would be triggering for some people. So maybe don't go to see that if it's just going to make someone angry. Maybe they shouldn't go see it. But I really love this movie. This may be the best movie I've seen this year.
Oh.
For all the kvetching and moaning and complaining I've been doing about Sony and the Spider-Man Rogues Gallery and all of that stuff, I feel like maybe they've made the best Marvel movie this year. And certainly, to my mind, the best multiverse movie.
Yeah.
I love the way that they put their spin on it, although I will definitely say there are some parallels with Loki in there as well.
Okay.
So it's not...
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's not cut off from the Marvel Cinematic Universe at all. There are references.
Okay.
There are references to a lot of stuff in Spider-Man, the 1960s comic.
Oh.
But again, they have like over 200 different Spider-Mans, men? How? I don't know. Spider-Man, Spider-Woman.
Variants, if you will.
Yeah. Very much. And I'm not saying the TVA got involved, but they could very well have. But we get to see another version, we'll just say. It was amazing. It was beautiful, and it's a 2.5 hour long movie, and it just went by so quickly. There is one thing about the movie that I hate about this thing. If anyone's ever had anything to complain about this movie, this is the one thing that it is. You go in and you get so wrapped up into this movie that you forget a crucial piece of information, which is this is part one of a film. There's a part one and a part two. So it ends in a cliffhanger.
Oh.
And you're going to be waiting a year. There's a cliffhanger toward the end. And I was like, oh, that's right. This is the part one, isn't it? They're really going to end this in a cliffhanger. Oh my God, they ended it in a cliffhanger.
Right.
And there were people who went in who didn't know that this was like, there was going to be a part two. And they were like, what? You can't end it here. But after thinking about it for a minute, I'm like, okay, if you were wanting to have people come back into the theater, yeah.
Now you got them.
Exactly. And oh, what a twist at the end. There were twists and turns all the way through this. But oh my God, there is a major twist at the end. And I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed how they developed Miles Morales as a character. I'll also say the beginning spends a lot of time with Gwen. The first part, you learn more about Gwen and her story. Okay. Which is very important to the movie. But There's only so much I can say about this movie without going into a whole lot of details because there's just so much neat stuff. Oscar Isaac as Spider-Man 2099 was great.
Right.
And, as a character, very well developed. And all of it was just great. There's big epic moments. The fight scenes are ridiculous. Mm-hmm. And all these different variants, tons of them, and a lot of Easter eggs and stuff that I'm sure I've missed and I'm going to have to go back and see again. But yeah, it was just amazing. I will say that it does break one little tradition of Marvel movies in that there are no post-credit scenes in this one.
Okay.
But then again, I can see why they wouldn't want to necessarily diffuse
the cliffhanger,
the impact of the cliffhanger. That's what they wanted to leave it with. But again, the cameos. There's one in particular. I'm sure if anyone's been keeping track with spoilers, they know which one I'm talking about. If you haven't seen the movie and you haven't heard the spoiler, they went there. That's amazing. And when you get the chance to see it, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about because it'll be like, that. But there were a bunch of little cameos in there, little nods to stuff that we've already seen in the comics as well as the movies, other Sony properties, and all kinds of neat stuff. And I have to say, the villain, and you've seen the villain in the trailers, this character known as Spot, who was like a Z-grade, Z-list villain. And they made that character scary, terrifying, and wow.
Awesome.
Wow. I can't say enough good things about it, but I have to stop because I'm starting to get into spoiler territory, and this is not something you want spoiled. But if you haven't seen the first one, Mandy, at least get an idea about what you're getting into.
Yeah, definitely.
Because that builds into it. But yeah, the first one won an Oscar for a reason. Mm-hmm. And this one, like I said, it actually topped the last one, which I didn't think was even going to be possible. Mm-hmm. Do I think that this movie is going to win an Oscar this year? With it being part one, maybe not. It's like they did with the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Mm-hmm. It's like the third movie won the Oscar, but it was really for all three.
Collective. For
the collective, really. And so possibly, maybe when next March rolls around and we get part two, who knows? Maybe it will be a contender. But yeah, this was very easily could be the movie, my favorite movie of 2023. Mm-hmm. It's going to take something just absolutely out of the park to dethrone this one. But it was, for me, everything I loved about movies. It's gorgeous from beginning to end. It's breathtaking. Even when it comes to animation, there's nothing that even comes close to it. Mm-hmm. It's just fantastic. And I cannot wait for you to get the chance to see it. I realize you don't go into theaters.
Not much.
Mm-hmm. But when you get a chance to see this thing, definitely I want to talk to you about it for sure. But,
we shall see.
But with that said, we come to the end of episode 191. Thank you for listening, and tune in next time for the latest in geek news and views with the Geek Watch podcast. For Mandy Petrie, this is Brian Hatcher. Reminding all the Geek Watchers out there, we're all geeky about something. Be proud of yours. See you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Geek Watch podcast. If you enjoyed this program, don't forget to like and subscribe on your preferred platform and share this podcast on your social media. For links to all the ways you can listen to the Geek Watch podcast, as well as leave comments and suggestions, visit our website at geekwatch.net. The Geek Watch podcast is a Hanging J production.